Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I'm your host, Mike Vierman. I'm here with my friend and trusty producer, Max Kerman. On the phone, calling in from Hamilton, is our pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham. Also in the room is Intern Erika. And joining us sort of randomly is my brother, Greg Vierman.
Brother Greg.
Brother Greg. He's got a bag of salt and vinegar chips and a can of Budweiser. So
also noted that he's Erika's boss, too.
Oh,
Yep,
Max.
sir.
No, we're a team, man. We work together.
Okay.
I'm like the captain. She's the assistant captain.
You're the captain now?
That's right.
Okay, so this podcast is interesting because we were recording this on a Sunday night. You will be getting it Monday morning. A lot has happened. This is a big Toronto sports weekend. The Leafs and Raptors both had games on Friday, and today's Sunday. Game of Thrones is happening right now, and I'm mildly annoyed that I'm not watching it because
And we're definitely not talking about Game of Thrones on this podcast.
Well, no, we can't because I don't know what the fuck is going on.
And I don't care.
Okay, I'm glad you don't. So that speaks for you. So the reason I bring this up is because, again, like I said, we normally do this podcast with our friend and brother Shane Cunningham in the room. He is not in the room because Max just called an audible like 12 hours ago and was like, let's record a pod Sunday night. Lots going on in the city. Shane, what was your... Or maybe we'll listen. Max, why did you call this podcast?
Well, first of all, I resent the way my voice is portrayed. Everybody always goes, it's very demeaning. I don't like it at all.
I don't know who had the first Max impression, but we're all doing an impression of that impression.
Yeah, I think Jug and Julian did it, my old roommates. But basically, there's two big nights in sports for Toronto sports fans happen, one on Friday and today on Sunday. And if we were to record on Tuesday like we're planning to, that stuff's going to seem really old. So I figured let's talk about our experience on Friday and on Sunday, and let's get into it.
That was the thinking.
But this is so weird because we don't care about hockey, and that's really what... It's a big night for hockey, but for the Raptors, it's not a big night.
Yeah, but I knew I was going to the game, so I kind of want to talk about that.
Max went to the Toronto.
He just wants to talk about the hookup and how he got in there.
He went to the Leafs game tonight.
I went for free. I'm still shooting 100, Shane.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that whole experience in a second. But Shane, because I got a text yesterday, and I was with it's Easter Sunday right now, so like I was in Hamilton, had to come back. Shane, what were you thinking when you got a text from Max and you're like, oh, I'm going to be calling in Sunday night?
Something smelled like bullshit. I was like, something's up. It's just like an excuse so they can say, oh, I gotta go hang with the guys and have a few drinks because we're doing it for the pod. It didn't feel...
There's an element of truth in that.
It didn't feel real because we're not a sports podcast and nothing notable is happening. Like, the Raptors are the most boring playoff series. The only thing that could possibly be interesting would be if they lost.
Sure, but if the Leafs won today, which they did not, which we'll get into, the city would be like half in the bag right now. Like,
that
people
is
would be
true.
so excited. It'd be the first, first playoff series win since 2004. So I was hoping the city would be burning right now. Is kind of what I was hoping for.
So because we both know that the Leafs did not win. This might be a bit of a boring podcast, but I'm open to see what happens.
Okay, let's give it a go. So anyway, what I wanted to see is I knew Mike had to do a family thing on Friday night, and he was missing a Raptors thing. So that was the first thing I wanted to know. How was your family night in Hamilton?
Yes.
During the middle of the Raptors game.
So obviously, like I watch every game of the regular season for the Raptors plus preseason. I do not miss a minute. I'm obsessed. My wife knows that when the playoffs come around, I am going to be watching every minute of those games. Through serendipity, my brother-in-law, who I love dearly, Clay, he turned 40. So he
ruined your playoffs.
Well, it happened to fall on the night of the Raptors' Game 3 against Orlando Magic in the playoffs. Now, this is what I will say. In the past, I might have sort of been a selfish person and been like, it's my playoffs. But this time around, I was like, no, this is like, listen, I'm a dad. We have a child.
I'm an adult.
These are the family things you have to do. It's not about you. And by the way, like I also like everybody in the family knows that I'm like an obsesso when it comes to the Raptors. So like I didn't want to walk in there and then everyone be like, oh, Mike's, I didn't want to make it about me because it was his night. So anyway, going into this, there was a part of me that was like a little bit like sad because I was like, oh, I'm going to miss the Raps game. But again, it's not about me. That being said, Once I made the decision that I'm not going to look at my phone or look at the score or anything like that, I actually was kind of weirdly sort of free, and it was an amazing time. We were at this great Mexican restaurant in Hamilton on James North. It was a great night, and then it turned out they won anyway. So I went home, and I immediately, like when we got back, I just watched the whole replay.
Did you
on League Pass.
PVR it and not look at your Twitter?
I have NBA League Pass. Yeah, so I didn't look at Twitter. I didn't
So
look
you
at
had no
anything.
idea.
But here's the thing. So the Leafs were also playing. For me, I actually kind of seemed like a saint because there were so many Leafs fans at the table. They were all trying to check their phones. So I actually kind of seemed like I got off good.
Oh, so you were the guy at the table who didn't seem sports.
I was the adult
obsessed.
at the table,
Oh,
Max.
there you go.
Yeah, it was really nice though.
Yeah, it was funny. I think did Danica post Danica, Mike's wife? Did she post anything on Instagram about that night?
Yeah, she posted a bunch of photos from the dinner.
It was funny because everybody looked nice and everybody seemed like they're having a great time, and all I could think of was how miserable you were. I was like, well, on the surface, this is Instagram at its core.
You would have thought I would be miserable, but I actually, once you make the choice, you're committed, and
funny,
I had a great night.
I saw those photos too, and it was a lot of Danica's family, and there's kind of everyone was looking nice for the dinner, and everyone was in nice clothes, but I hadn't seen you yet, and I just was expecting once I finally saw you to have your face painted or wearing a Raptors shirt, like you just you'll go to the dinner, but the fan will still be there. And
you had a big boy shirt on.
In a
But you had a
jersey,
big boy
like
shirt
a
on,
tank
yeah.
top, showing the guns. No, I was wearing a
button up.
A button up.
Yeah. I was in Miami flying home because I was in Miami from Tuesday to Friday with Lauren, and our flight was at 8:30, so it was going to be at the end of both Raptors and Leafs games. But my flight got delayed because of bad weather till 12:30. So it was actually kind of a cool experience because I was in the bar in the airport, and on the TV, the Raptors game was on. And there's a bunch of Canadians that were also waiting for their flight. So that happened, and then I had the Leafs game on my computer, and everybody just ended up huddling around with this one dude's iPad, and everybody watched the end of the Leafs game. So it was actually
Wow.
ended up being an awesome.
All Canadians, you think?
All Canadians, yeah, because everybody was all waiting for the same flight. So it ended up being like a great, memorable experience. As shitty as it is to have a flight on Friday night that was supposed to leave at 8:30 p.m., it didn't end up taking off till 12:30. The fact that I got to watch both of those wins and everybody was in a great mood ended up being a silver lining to bad weather.
And here's the thing to Friday too is obviously Leafs and Raptors in the playoffs, but there's also a TFC game, there's a Marlies game, and there's a Jays game, and Toronto went 5 for 5.
Or
Which
6
is
for
never-
6?
6 for 6. It never happened.
Marlies
in the-
win
Was it
too?
six?
There was the Marlies and then the Wolfpack, the rugby team in Toronto.
Did they play too?
They did, and they won.
How did we forget about the Wolfpack?
Nice.
Wolfpack.
Actually, well, I was
That's the
working.
Wolfpack call. I just made that up. I don't know what a Wolfpack is. Is that what
I think
lacrosse?
they howl at the
I don't know,
moon.
but their
It's the rugby
cheerleaders
team.
are called the She-Wolves.
Really?
Yeah, I know that. I know that.
Do you-
I've been to a rugby game.
I've
They're really
actually been
fun.
to, I've been to a rugby game too. It's
So
a good
needless
time.
to say, it was a historic night in Toronto. Shaney, what was your Friday night like?
I was drinking flights of beer with my wife. We're getting
Yeah,
into
what is this thing you're doing?
Did you guys make your homemade flights? Is it like
I've
making
been
homemade
seeing this
nachos?
on your Instagram that it's like you guys are just partying by yourselves with like being beer connoisseurs. What's the deal?
Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of gotten into breweries and doing brewery tours and drinking beer at home. Yeah, it's fun, and no one else is around, and I have fun drinking with Alex. I don't know.
So what kind of beers were in that flight? Tell us about it.
There's my favorite beer. It's a really weird name. It's called Juicy Ass, though, and it's
Oh, that's good. That's Flying Monkeys.
because they have really funny
It's Flying
names
Monkeys
for
IPA.
these beers, and it's a delicious like sour beer, and I really enjoy it. And there's these guys. They have a TV show called Tales from the Ale Trail, and I'm kind of buddies with them, and we're like
How are you buddies with them?
I just added them on Instagram, and we DM each other, and then. So I don't like wine as much as I like beer, so I've kind of gotten into this. But I was watching the Raptors game in the background while we were enjoying the beers. But I think the Raptors series is very boring right now.
It's a pretty boring series. You're
It's
right.
anticlimactic for sure. The game one kind of fictitiously made it dramatic, which it wasn't really ever in doubt.
Yeah, it's only
Hey, Shane,
interesting when they lose. I wouldn't say it's like emergency pod Sunday night for this Raptors series. Like,
The man's trying to have a flight. Hey Shane, where are you recording right now? Are Alex and the baby Lou down? Are you in like a room isolated? How are you doing this?
Yeah, Lou's out like a light at 7 every night. So I just watched Game of Thrones, and then I have like this office set up where I have my H6 and all my gear.
All right, what are you wearing right now? Because it's 10:36 at night. No, because I know what I would be wearing if I wasn't in this boardroom with 3 other people.
I'm in my underwear, and I have a cardigan on and a pink shirt.
Cardigan.
The pink shirt's
Cardigan
under
with
the
an
cardigan.
Underwear is you're wearing your underwear, so you have bare legs, but you're wearing a cardigan.
I'm wearing really long socks for some reason, so they're like halfway up my calf. So my
Shane,
legs
what was
aren't
the deal
really bare.
with the pizza guys that showed up at your house? That was another Instagram I was kind of curious
So,
about.
for those of you listeners, go to Shane's personal Instagram, which is ShaneyBoy69 at ShaneyBoy69, and he posted a photo. Was it on? He was on yours, right, Shane?
Yeah. This is kind of another tradition my wife and I have. Every Friday, I will order a medium cracker crust Domino's pizza and a small Papa John's pizza. And the reason we do it is, I don't know if anyone listening is familiar with Papa John's, but they have the best garlic butter dipping sauce. And it tastes delicious with Domino's pizza. The Papa John's pizza is good in its own right, but the combination of their garlic sauce mixed with Domino's
Wait a second.
is perfect. What?
You order the small pizza just for the garlic sauce?
Well, I do still eat the pizza. Like, I'm not just going to leave it there. But I try to get the smallest one possible. And then, it's a high calorie night.
So the Domino's pizza in the Papa John's dipping sauce is
It's
That's
perfect.
the combo.
Yeah, it's how we treat ourselves on Friday night. But we're trying to we're getting into summer mode, so now we're just having one large cracker crust on Friday nights, and we're taking out the Papa John's element. But we do have we've stocked up on garlic sauces because we always order a couple more than we can actually eat.
Shane, is there ever like a moment where you kind of just sit back and like think like this is my life? Like,
Yeah.
Doesn't get any better than this.
Alex and I
I'm wearing
always
a
talk
cardigan
about it.
and I'm crushing his.
Alex and I honestly always talk about how awesome our lives are. We're always like, this is awesome. Like,
I don't think Greg was intending that. Wasn't the tone when he asked that question. But
what's beautiful is that Shane, that is what is awesome about his life.
that is true. Yeah.
and I fully know what Greg was implying. Like, I'm some sort of loser.
Also, I like how articulate I just sounded, as if I haven't been at a bar drinking and watching the Raptors game.
Well, Mike, describe for our listeners where we are right now and what the deal is.
Okay, so we are currently in. If you're listeners, you know that Dan Hamilton and myself live in the same building. We were trying to figure out where to record this thing tonight because, again, Max on a whim decided to do an emergency Sunday night pod, which I'm enjoying thus far. I was like, and this is what always happens with Max: is he'll like send a text and he'll be like, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing this." And then I immediately, and he's the producer, by the way, and I immediately go, okay, well, how do we do this and how do we do that? Who's going to record it? Who's going to whatever? And he's like, okay, let me get back to you in 5. And then he comes back and he's like, we're going to do it at Dan's place. He goes, it's going to be 10 o'clock. He's like, Erika's down to do it. I go, okay, what about Shane? He's like, Shane's going to call in. I go, okay.
So I've produced the hell out of this thing so far. Carry on.
So I go, we're actually going to do it at 10 because Game of Thrones goes till 10 and it might be a longer episode. Also, you have to time shift it after the Raptors game. I'm like, there's no way Dan Hamilton's going to let us into his fucking apartment if Game of Thrones is even close to like still being on. Max, let me get back to you.
Well, then, okay, here's the thing. Let's get into this. Because I've been asking you for 2 weeks. You live in this building that has all these boardrooms on the second floor. I know this just because I've been visiting. And, Mike, you're one of the most capable people that I know. You refused to pick up the phone and just ask your front desk about this particular thing. So then I ended up asking Dan, give me your fucking front desk guy's number, and I'll call. So I called down. Well, I was at my own apartment. I said, hey, I'm calling from 911. Can I have one of your boardrooms? No problem. All I have to do is fill out some paperwork. So anyway, producer's job is done.
What I would say to that is that I'm a dad with a baby, man. I can't be calling boardrooms. I'm worried about the Raps advancing the second round.
No, but you know what's funny? No, and by the way, it's one of these things that like everybody has their thing that they just will not or cannot just take care of. And I have a laundry list of things that I will not and cannot do.
Including a laundry list.
Including the laundry. I fucking hate doing the laundry, let me tell you. And so it was just funny that like this one particular, because Mike, I've seen you troubleshoot like 100 different things. And you're so capable. I was like, what is keeping him? What is the mental hurdle for him just calling down and thing? Anyway, it's you don't have to give me an explanation. It's your own thing. I have many of my own. And, but anyway. we figured it out.
Mine taxes. I haven't done it yet. Have you guys?
That's mine too.
Have you not done your taxes yet?
I just did mine this weekend, but my parents were pissed that I waited
Why
so
were
long.
your parents pissed?
That I waited so long. There's so many forms you have to get from employers and people and.
It's a lot.
I
Max,
can't
have
be
you done your
bothered.
taxes?
Taxes
My
are-
accountant did it. I didn't. I just signed the paper.
I just crumpled up my receipts in a big ball and whipped it at my accountant's face.
I don't even take. Honestly, I don't even keep track of the receipts anymore. I just pay for everything by credit card, and we're good.
Taxes are very
I
intimidating.
think that's the way it works.
Shane, you done your taxes yet?
My wife does them for me.
She's a certified accountant.
I'm living a good
Shane,
life.
Blessed.
Shane, have you figured out how to use the laundry machines yet?
The laundry? Like, do I know how to do the laundry?
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I figured that out 5 years ago. When I
good.
was 30.
You were avoiding that for a long time.
What's that?
Yeah, you were avoiding that for a long time. I remember that was one of your things. Like you didn't know how to do laundry.
Yeah, because I had a girlfriend who was doing my laundry for me, and then once we broke up, I didn't know how to clean my clothes.
Just had a rick.
He just walked around nude for a while, and then he found another girl.
Yeah, that relationship lasted a year longer than it needed to, but
Because of the
Out
laundry.
of necessity.
I'm just kidding, of course. No one knows what relationship I'm talking about, Max.
It's Dan.
I think Dan
Oh,
Hamill.
one second.
Literally, this we will talk about. So shady. Like honestly, so we're in this boardroom and there's like a door with kind of like a fogged like sort of scene. Like it's like almost like a horror movie. And someone just bumped into the door. We were like, oh, we're gonna get kicked out. It turned out it was just Dan who's holding 2 tall cans of Coors Light.
And an iPhone charger.
Dan, say something on the mic. Max, say it on the mic. Dan, just say hi to the people that are listening right now.
Hello?
There we go. And actually, it was funny. When I was plotting this idea, I was like, no one is possibly going to be down here because anybody who has an apartment in this building would just stay in their apartment. But when we came down here, it's kind of happening. There's like a bunch of old ladies next door that have some Sunday night activity.
There's a guy FaceTiming his girlfriend while he's like playing video games.
And we're wandering around with salt and vinegar chips.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And they also have like an internet cafe in there. There's like to use the internet. I'm like,
Did you say internet cafe?
yeah, that's what it's.
That's a pretty 2001 reference. I like it.
Wait, what makes it?
There's
Where's
a bunch
the
of
cafe
computers
part?
there. Well, the cafe is non-existent, but it's a bunch of computers that you can.
It looks like
get,
an internet
yeah,
cafe,
I don't
minus
know,
the cafe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you like access to the internet. Where I just feel like most people have access to the internet.
True story. I won't go into the long story, but I was dumped by my girlfriend, now wife.
All right, here we go. 40 minutes.
Calm down, guys. I will tell the whole story on a pod one day. But the reason I bring this up is because the Raptors are in the playoffs in round 1 against Orlando. And in 2007 or 8, I can't quite remember, but I was dumped and I was having this sort of crisis in my life. So I went on this solo trip to Europe.
Oh no!
I'm not. No. I'm not doing the whole
stop
trip. I'm not doing the whole
There's
trip.
better time to
Backstep
the
here.
Leafs at some point.
I'm getting to this point. The point is the Raptors won round 1 against Orlando. This is the Chris Bosh Raptors. And I actually was so despondent that I was like, the thing that I love the most in this world, the Raptors, I can't even take enjoyment out of them, so I didn't watch any of the first round. The trip was so good that by the end of the trip, I was like, actually genuinely like, oh man, I kind of want to know how the Raptors are doing because it was at game 4 at that point. And I was like, so I went to, as Greg called it, an internet cafe. Literally in Malaga, which is in Spain, and I got lost like in a square, and I found one of these internet cafes, and I looked up the Magic Raptors score, and like I was actually interested in basketball again, and that's how I knew I was getting over my breakup.
Hey, that's actually a good Magic Raptors. I remember that playoff series, and now they're playing them again.
That's the
And they
symmetry
got
of it.
swept by the Magic.
This is why we need to pod on Sunday night.
Yeah, Max, when was the last time you were in an internet cafe?
Oh, wow. Shane's laughing right now. When was the last time I was at an internet cafe? I can't recall. I don't know.
Do you have any memories in an internet cafe?
In elementary school, like I lived near Chinatown. There's a lot of internet cafes there, and so we'd hang out there after school sometimes. But not since like high school or like grade 8 or something like that. It's been a while.
What else
sense.
went down in Chinatown? This could be the start of a good novel.
I'll work on that one.
All right.
So Dan just joined us. So we want to talk about Sunday today because I got a text from Dan on Friday at 5:30 going, Max, I love you regardless. You think there's any juice on getting Game 6 Leafs tickets on Sunday afternoon?
Oh.
So that was probably the impetus for this podcast. It was like, if I do get tickets, and as we know, I'm batting 100 so far, that, it'd be
In
it'd be
life
fun to
or
talk
with
about.
tickets? Yeah.
No, just with tickets. No, because it was on a previous podcast. Shane asked if what my shooting percentage is with this kind of thing. Sure enough, our good friends came through at MLC, and we got to do the game. We were 17th row, which for hockey fans is the ideal viewing point.
yeah.
It's above the boards.
You're in the suit seats.
Yeah, and it was an amazing. Even though the Leafs lost, it was an amazing atmosphere in Scotiabank Arena. Like they had the towels, which is always a cool move. Also, the flag thing that goes over top of the crowd, that always looks amazing. And the Leafs scored the first goal, and it seemed like the place was going to explode. Boston ended up scoring the next 3 goals, so it really kind of brought down the mood. But a couple of small little observations. Number one, they had a moment of silence for Sri Lanka. There was a big mass terrorist attack.
Yep.
At a church in Sri Lanka, and it was probably related to Easter festivities.
Yeah.
And so they had a moment of silence. But one thing that was really interesting was to see 18,000 people not say a peep.
Oh, during the moment of silence.
During the moment of silence.
Sure.
I was just like, that's kind of an amazing thing to experience. And you know, everybody like thinks about what happened. And I thought that was very powerful.
Imagine you passed away and they had a moment of silence for you. And then someone went, "He was an asshole."
Well, I was waiting for somebody to say something stupid, but nobody did, which is a testament, I think, to the Toronto fans.
Toronto's growing.
Yeah.
Hey, Max.
And
if you passed away at this point with your level of fame, do you think there'd be a moment of silence for you at a Leaf game?
it depends on how you go. I think that's a big thing. It's like, if it's by your own like idiocy, then no, I'd probably not.
Like, you mean if you had like a drug overdose?
Yeah, if you were
There still would be. And it'd be like your last free ticket into that arena. You know, it's like put him on the jumbotron, his last free ride.
No, let's say you were like stabbed at like a Ticats game or something.
Yeah, then I think the people of Toronto would pay their respects for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah.
So then another.
No, here's a question.
I-
No, I like this line of thinking. Max, so let's say again you're stabbed at a Toronto Ticats game in Hamilton, and you are now dead. What song do you think they play at your memorial? Like, what is your definitive song at your
It'd
funeral?
probably have to be an Arkell song.
Oh, knocking at the door for sure.
It's not going to be fucking Angel by Jimi Hendrix. Like, what is literally your song, the one that you wrote? Like, if you were
Knocking
John
at the
Lennon-
door.
Yeah, it's like knocking on heaven's door.
Come on. Tonally, they're going to play a rocker?
No,
Yeah, I
they
don't
would
know
make
if
an
they do that.
acoustic version of Knocking at the Door.
Who
Yeah.
would sing it?
Deezy.
Mike D.
He's like,
That's
finally, I
Max.
can step out front. That's Max.
Yeah, knocking at heaven's
That's
door.
Max. Knocking at the door. I mean, it'd probably be like sentimental, like "My Heart's Always Yours" or something like that, right?
The recording or like someone doing an acoustic, like Shane said?
Oh, actually, that leads to at least a better question. Who would be the celebrity vocalist that would come in and do the version?
Like Elton John rewriting the lyrics of Candle in the Wind for Lady Di, Princess Diana dying. Who would be okay, first of all, we'll talk about who you might be able to get, like who could be booked.
Yeah.
But let's talk about who you'd want.
Okay. Oh man, Chance the Rapper probably.
Really?
Just singing and dancing. That's the way I'd want to do it. That'd be really fun.
That'd be a nice funeral. I'd like
Speaking of Elton John, I had an Easter lunch today, and my uncle Andy, who is an accountant, he's like a quintessential accountant, like sort of a very, straight-laced, like on the surface, a kind of a boring accountant kind of guy.
Yeah.
He told me that he just retired from the advertising agency Ogilvy and Mather. He's been their chief financial officer for,
a big name,
for years.
yeah.
Turns out Elton John's husband worked for Ogilvy, and he knew him. Like Andy knew him.
Wait,
and
he's a Canadian.
He's a
They have
Canadian guy,
place up here,
and Andy remembers him as like a young whippersnapper who's like really smart, and he requested to get transferred to the London office just because I think he wanted to travel because he was a young guy, and then he met Elton John at a party. And now he's Elton John's husband, and they have a couple kids together. How cool! And anyway, I just thought it blew my mind that he never brought.
He never told that story before. They've been married for a long time, and
he never brought that up. And it's funny. It's like he knows I'm in a band. He knows I'm interested.
It blew your mind.
Anyway, back to the game for a second. I had another interesting experience, and I want to get your take on it. Is that they had me on the jumbotron on the blue carpet instead of the red carpet? They have this like segment that goes the blue carpet. Please welcome to the game from Hamilton, Ontario, Arkell's singer Max Kerman, and they had the camera there, and I kind of like looked at the camera, kind of waved, looked up at the jumbotron to see what I look like, and the reviews
started
I got.
masturbating it.
Masturbating. That was Greg, by the way. But the reviews I got were like, you looked really awkward, and like you looked like you didn't know what to do with yourself. A few people were like, that must have felt pretty weird, huh? Like that, and I thought to myself, I was like, I thought I did a good job of playing it off cool. So my question for you guys is, what is the look for when that happens? Because I know Jay-Z does a great job of it when he's sitting courtside at Madison Square Garden. Like he looks like he doesn't give one fuck. But how would you guys do it? Would you be earnest and be smiling? Would you be kind of mean mugging to the camera? What would you guys do?
I would definitely earnest smile, wave.
And here's the thing: do you continue eye contact
You
at the
stay
camera?
at the camera. As much as you want to see it on the screen, you continue eye contact with the camera.
Okay.
That
See,
would be the
I
move.
want to see what I was looking like, but then
Yeah.
every time you look over, it's a bad angle. It doesn't connect with everybody who's watching the video feed. What would you do, Mike?
I would smile and wave. I'd probably give a peace sign. I'd play it very down the
Sunglasses
middle.
on?
If I was wearing I wouldn't wear sunglasses in the arena unless they were prescription and I'd forgotten my eyeglasses at home.
Okay, so for technical reasons, Shane, what would you do?
Yeah,
I just go straight face staring at the camera.
that's why he's funny though. That would be the funny way to do it.
Yeah, key is to always stay on the camera. Don't look up.
Yeah, fuck. I wish I had another go at that.
Or just kiss the person beside you and then claim that you thought it was a kiss cam. That'd be a funny way to play it.
That would be good. Erika, what would you do?
I don't know. I would chug my beer, do something funny, and hit the dab.
See, this is the thing. Is is there a room for a bit, basically? Because
for sure.
Remember, speaking of Game of Thrones, that video of Sophie Turner, Joe Jonas's
That was
fiance,
a great
that went
pull.
viral.
What did she do?
She's
They were
at
they
a
were at
hockey game, and she went on the
also a
camera.
Rangers game. It was in New York. It was
Yeah.
a Rangers game. Her and Joe Jonas were sitting there going.
Yeah, and she had a cup of red wine, and the camera came on her, and it was Sophie Turner, and she literally chugged her glass of wine with her hand in the air, and then
the place went nuts.
Exactly that. She hit the dab. It was so funny. It was all over.
So the context for her doing that is a little different. That she's this beautiful actress and she's drinking red wine. Me being a hoser Canadian rock guy, isn't as funny or
And
charming.
red wine's a
I don't
big
know.
part
If
of
it
Game
is.
of Thrones. You could do the old Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber, just throw popcorn in your face and be all funny. That suits your personality. No.
Don't go slapstick.
No, don't go slapstick.
No,
Yeah.
not for you.
No, yeah, I don't know what tonally. I mean, probably you're right. The thing to do is just to earnestly look at the camera, wave.
It's true.
pretend
And this
you're
is a
big
problem
shot.
that 1% of the population is ever going to encounter. Yeah.
You know what, Max? You bring up a real relatable problem.
Yeah.
What happens? What
Yeah.
happens? What happens when they put me on the jumbotron at a game that I've
What do
gotten
you
comp
do?
tickets for? That I'm out with my best friend, and we're drinking for free. And do I look silly or not?
I'm on the blue
Because
carpet.
everyone started messaging me from all my followers on Instagram saying that I looked weirdly awkward. What would you guys do? Let's do a poll on fucking Twitter.
Listen, I bounce many ideas off of you. I rely on you guys to give me good feedback for my life and career, and this is part of it.
Well,
no,
I
it's
do
fun.
have one question. Was that your first time back in the building since you rocked that place?
It was actually, and a bunch of the concierge people, and
We're you still owe us from that open bar.
no, everyone's very nice. Everybody's
What is it? They didn't know you?
Yeah, a bunch of people were
Dan
very
Hamilton had a
complimentary.
story. Put Dan on the mic for a second. Dan, you told me a story about someone recognizing Max.
Max is walking back in the back hallways, and he's walking by in his very white, bright peacock coat, prancing around. And there's some really drunk guy sitting on a stool and goes, "Yo, famous guy," and then that was it.
Yeah.
But is it any different going back there as a fan of the sports team, knowing that you melted 15,000 faces?
No, because I don't associate that place with
Greg is the
concert.
rock journalist of our time, by the way. Is that Jan Warner over there? Anyway, go on.
No, I associate that place way more with sports and me just being a fan in there. The fact that we played a concert there was a bit of a disconnect. I was oh yeah, we did a show here, but that's not what I think of at all when I think of the Scotiabank Arena.
Shane, what'd you think of Max's concert there?
What did I went to that?
Oh, you were fighting to get into the after party. You almost got kicked out.
Oh yeah,
I had to save you.
Yeah, it was good. All Max's shows are very good. I was wondering about the game. If you got an Arkell's Leafs jersey,
No, not tonight. Definitely not.
did that piss you off?
So he's got one before, or a couple, yeah.
Yeah. No. I didn't want any more attention. But I did feel like I was the only person not in a Leafs jersey. I'll say that much. Because everybody in that place is rocking the Leafs jersey.
Even the suits? Because you were in the good seats.
Yeah, no, even the suits. Honestly, every single person is wearing a Leafs jersey, which is a testament to
Did they
the
warn
fandom.
you? Did they warn you that they were going to call you out during the game, or is that just a given at your celebrity?
No, I did hear through a few people that they want to show you on the big screen, and then when the camera
through a
shows
few
up,
people, that was the scuttlebutt?
what?
You heard through a few people?
No, there's someone said they want to have you up there.
Okay, got
yeah.
it.
So the person who was sort of taking care of us, but it was good.
Cool.
Yeah.
We have 15 minutes left on this.
Okay, 15 minutes to get into the Raptors game. So after the Leafs game, it was very sad. as I said, the building was juiced when the Leafs were ahead, and then when they were behind, everybody felt pretty deflated. When we were leaving, everybody was kind of sad. But we went to Real Sports, which is next door, and we met up with the Veerman brothers and my dad, and we watched
Mike Kerman,
and we watched the Raptors game, and it was a victorious event.
We had Hammy there. We had the Nut.
Yeah, the Nut showed up. It was very fun. And give us your thoughts on what are your feelings on the Raptors?
Did you guys know we're in the VIP section the whole time? I did not know that until
I've been in that booth before.
It's the players' lounge.
Only with Max though.
Yeah.
It's so for our listeners, like Real Sports has like this sort of like it gets crazy packed for especially on like a doubleheader where it's like Leafs and Raptors or whatever. But we walked in, they were like Max is like, "Oh, we're in a booth, like come." So we go, but both Max and the Nut were there when we showed up, and I couldn't tell who secured the booth, the Nut or Max. Can you tell us?
Well, I asked the Nut to secure the booth, and he figured it out.
This booth had a tap. Like, literally, you could pour your own Coors or Canadian in this booth.
Yeah, we stayed away from that, though. Apparently it gets expensive.
It does get expensive. So how are we feeling about the Raptors right now?
Well, the Raptors won. They're up 3-1, obviously, which is a commanding lead as the Raptors play-by-play
And they won
guy.
convincingly.
They won convincingly.
Kawhi was incredible.
I think Shane summed it up. There's really not much to say about the Raptors. Shane said, like, the only thing that would be interesting about this series is if the Raptors lost. So what's more interesting to me is that the Raptors are up 3-1. Philly is up 3-1 on Brooklyn, which means we will see Philly in Game 1, I imagine, of the second round on Saturday, which I have tickets to. And Greg has already claimed that he's going to be my shotgun.
It's true.
That is the series I'm interested in. This series is already over. And I'm happy. I'm glad that we are now a team. Because here's the thing. Historically, Raptors fans have this sort of anxiety about them where it's like, oh, we're going to blow it. We're going to embarrass ourselves in the most sort of embarrassing sort of like scenario that you could imagine. It's nice to just be like an elite team that is a title contender that takes care of business in the first round, wins 4-1, and keeps it moving. And I will say Shane said that shit to me literally like 5 days ago. We sit back-to-back at work. He was like, they'll be fine. They're going to come out. They're going to win the next 4 games.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell if they were playing well tonight. It just seemed like they were such a better team.
They played very well tonight, I thought.
Yeah.
Their defense was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Shane, what do you think as a guy watching?
I didn't really give a shit about it. I'm more interested in the Philly-Brooklyn series.
I know. That was interesting, eh?
Yeah, what did you think of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons laughing after Joel elbowed that one guy quite hard in the face in the press conference?
Bad look. And I watched, there's a little bit of NBA history, but I watched LeBron James and Dwayne Wade do the exact same thing to Dirk Nowitzki, who is suffering from a cold. And they ended up making fun of him for being sick. They were coughing on like the podium the way that sort of Joel and Ben were kind of laughing. I don't think ultimately it matters. Like Brooklyn's not coming back to win this series, but I do think it's a bad look and just sort of like they're young. These guys are both under 25. They're like having a piss. They're having a laugh. What'd you think of it?
I thought it was weird. Like, even if you're going to do that in private, you would never do that publicly. Like, you're at risk of getting a fine or suspension or something.
I think they're just young and like, you know what I mean? Like people do stupid shit.
Yeah, but it was very interesting and very dramatic and very very fun to watch in a way, like a voyeuristic
Definitely.
way.
Get the popcorn out. Greg, you were going to say something about Vucevic in Orlando.
Oh, no, just going back to just taking on positives from the Raptors series, just how Marc Gasol's handling Nikola Vucevic. Like, he's an all-star. Marc Gasol's shutting him down. He can't get anything. That's kind of the fun things. When the series are so boring, it's like you just look at the small things in the series, and that's the fun thing to watch is like Gasol against Vucevic or, you know, any of those little storylines. That's kind of what gets you through the boring series.
I agree.
What do you think? What are you most hopeful about when it comes to the Raptors, and what is the thing that concerns you the most, Mike?
Well, I'm most hopeful that I think this is a title contending year, and I would love to go to the finals because obviously I've never seen the Raptors in the finals. No one has, and I do think it's a rare thing. The thing I'm most concerned about is like I guess just like embarrassing ourselves on a large stage in the sense like here's what I would say. For so long, like you watch all these great franchises like the Lakers or like San Antonio, and you watch the way that they handle themselves. You watch the way that they succeed on the highest level. And for so many years, the Raptors have been sort of like not very good or mishandled, and they don't come through sort of in the clutch. So you always go, oh, why are we this Mickey Mouse organization? But for the last half decade, we've actually been building towards something. Masai Ujiri has changed everything. But you can't shake the feeling of like insecurity.
Yeah, the PTSD of a bunch of guys that are a little over their head.
So when you ask what's my worst case scenario, it's the thought of like losing in the most sort of embarrassing way, which I guess would be like being up 3-1 in Orlando and then losing in the first round.
Mm-hmm. What about getting swept by the Bucks? Would you consider that the most embarrassing scenario?
Not at all.
No.
Really? It's getting swept would be embarrassing, I feel
The
like.
Bucks are monsters. And by the way, it
I mean,
always
losing the
matters.
Bucks is one thing, but getting
nuance
swept.
matters, though. It matters how you got swept.
Yeah.
Like if we got swept in like we lost by 2 in every game and it came down to a poor decision or whatever, that's you live with that. If you get like your ass beat by 20 in all 4 games, that's a different sort of way to look at it.
Sure.
Would you consider that like embarrassing, Shane, being swept by the Bucks?
I would consider it predictable.
Yeah, my only concern, and tell me how you feel about this, Mike, is because the Raptors haven't had that much time to play together. It's like Kawhi's just been with the team with 1 year. For 1 year, Marc Gasol just got acquired. Siakam was just becoming good. There's a bunch of dudes on our team. Like I don't know if they have the history together, and I don't know if they care as much. When you see a team that's been through a bunch of shit, and they're like, okay, they got beat 2 years ago and again last year, but here's the year they're going to finally push through. Is that in my head, this idea that a team needs to have
organic growth is what
organic
you're
growth,
talking about.
or it's like, no, honestly, all these guys are vets. They've all been in the playoffs. They all have experience. Whether or not they like each other or have this deep personal connection and history with each other is irrelevant. It just matters that they're good basketball players and they're professionals. Like, should I be concerned that they don't have that much experience together?
Okay, so a couple thoughts. You're getting to the heart of what we root for as sports fans. So there's 2 things. So you're asking, can a bunch of mercenaries be brought in, the best of
Which
the
is
best?
what the Raptors are.
Yep. So the 8. Well, no, not necessarily.
Kind of.
No, I would say Freddie, Pascal, OG, Serge to an extent, Kyle. They are homegrown guys. So they're guys that have been on this team for a long time and they've been built up. Obviously, Mark, Kawhi, Danny, those guys have been brought in like mercenaries. Yeah. But I guess in a larger sense, what you're asking is, can mercenaries succeed at the highest level? My answer would be yes. My question is more sort of existential, which is, what do we root for as fans? Mm-hmm. Because it's like we obviously invested in DeMar. We invested in the idea of growth. We invested in we liked Jakob Poeltl. We loved Jonas Valanciunas. These are people that we grew and that we invested in fans. They're not going to be there if we cross the finish line. That's an interesting thing for me to sort of take in the sense that it's like, what at the end of the day are we rooting for?
Do you feel connected to this Raptors team because there are a bunch of mercenaries on the team compared to other years?
Well, I feel connected to this team for a lot of reasons. One, Marc Gasol has a great story. He's never been to a finals. Yeah. So his own journey is interesting. Kawhi is one of the best 3 to 5 basketball players in the entire world. So I love watching him play basketball. That in and of itself, I think, is unique. It'd be like being like, well, if Bruce Springsteen's going to sit in with this band that I'm into, do I find that weird? Or is it like, no, I think it's fucking awesome. Bruce Springsteen's playing with this fucking house band. It's like, that's fine. It's cool. I guess the thing is, it's like, what do we root for? This is kind of the old Seinfeld bit about laundry. It's like, do I root for the Raptors as an idea, an organization? Do I root for people like DeMar DeRozan? Or do I just root for, I guess, organizational cohesion? I don't know sometimes.
Well, we want the place we're from to do well, or the city closest to us to win, so the city can be buzzing. That's the whole reason we're doing this podcast, right? Because it would be fun. It would be fun if the Leafs won, because the city would be abuzz and everyone in Canada would be happy. It's like Christmas time. Everyone's just has a little extra bounce in their step, and it's a more joyous time. And I think that's what we're all going for. And we could have anybody on our Raptors team, and we would be rooting for them. And if Kawhi was on the other team, we'd be hating him.
Yeah, that's true. The Shrillist on Twitter, who I really like, he had a funny tweet that said, the Raptors got to be a bunch of guys who are now on the same teams in NBA history. And he carries on in the thread, Raptors are like one of those bands that you'd call a super group, except most of the members are only familiar to hardcore fans, like the broken social scene of basketball. I was like, that's a fucking great tweet, which is true. It's like, if you're an NBA fan, you like Danny Green because there's a work on the Spurs. You like Kawhi because he's an understated superstar. Yeah. You like Marc Gasol because he's a big man who does all the right things. You like Pascal because he was a secret special guy.
It's like the super group that's all the guitar and bass players. It's not no lead singers.
No lead singers. Yeah. There's something to that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm just happy that I can't, like, it's crazy to me sometimes when I look at that Raptors roster. When I think of where we came from, I used to root for, like, teams with, like, Jose Calderon was our best player. Like, seriously, like, I went to all those games, and it sucked, man.
No, it didn't. Jose was great. Those
No,
are good years.
Jose was great, but those teams fucking sucked. And I would convince myself that they were going to compete, and I'd be like, hey, we're, like, only 5 games out of 8th place, or, like, you know, being in the 8th seed. And it's like, now I look at our roster, and it's a fucking roll call of amazing basketball players.
I feel secure watching the team. It's like this is a guy who's not going to let me down. This is a guy who's going to do the right thing.
It's a
which
new
is very
feeling.
nice as a Raptors fan because we have a history of guys that you don't totally trust.
Well, it is kind of a funny thing with people give the Raptors the label of playoff underperformers, and it's like, as the organizational thing, it's like the Raptors are playoff underperformers, but it's like, no, DeMar and Kyle were. And we've lost DeMar. We've lost like a bunch of guys that underperformed, and we brought in all these mercenaries, like you said. So it's like, it's not that the Raptors aren't underperformers. It was like the group of dudes that we had in here were underperformers. And this is a completely different team than it was last year. It's all new guys. Like the starting 5 is Kyle's the only guy in there. Like Kyle's the only person from the starting 5 last year. So it's just a really funny thing when you identify the Raptors as being playoff underperformers, and then not even like factoring in the fact that everyone on this team is new to it, and Kawhi is definitely a playoff performer. Pascal's proven to be a playoff performer. So anyway, so it's really fun to watch, and it's just comforting. Like you said, it's like I believe in this group of guys. Like they're so good.
Erica, you just came in on a train from where are you from?
Waterloo.
You came in with a 6-pack of Bush and a bunch of leftovers from Easter.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the Raptors?
Oh my god!
I love the Raptors. I'm not a big basketball guy, but I root for the Raptors. I love Serge Ibaka, and
Just like Alex.
and yeah, I hope they win. What's the cup called? What do you call it in basketball? If they win, it's not the Stanley Cup.
It's the Larry O'Brien Trophy.
Larry O'Brien.
But no one
it's,
calls
it's not as
it.
good as the Stanley Cup.
Who's Larry O'Brien?
He's got one giant ball, and that's why the trophy looks the way. No, that's a joke. If anyone knows what the trophy looks like, that joke kind of makes sense. But anyway, Erica, what were your thoughts on Max calling a random podcast this late at night?
I'm just curious. Am I getting paid overtime
Definitely not.
or
Did Greg put you up to this?
holiday pay?
Ask for overtime.
All right,
Because I
we
think
gotta
Max,
wrap
I
this
think we
up.
have about 2 minutes left before the audio cuts out. I'm just wondering, was this worth it?
You know what? What we'll do is we'll put a Twitter poll. Is we're gonna
Hold on, I'm taking a photo of Max. Max,
those
there
are-
his feet up on the table. He's got his shirt open. He's
got
looking
4
awesome
buttons
right
undone.
now.
A really funny video. I'm gonna post it on Instagram. I was gonna wait for approval, but I'm just
Yeah,
gonna post
okay.
it.
So we're gonna put a Twitter poll up. Was this worth it? Everybody's pretty loose right now. We're talking like we're basketball professionals. I'm asking a lot of questions that are completely unrelatable, and you can let us know if this was a fun podcast or whether it was a waste of time.
Are you guys drunk right now?
That would be affirmative.
Okay, we're done.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. All right, cool. Thanks, Shane.
Yeah. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Mike on Much can be found on Twitter and Instagram at Mike on Much. You can subscribe to the show on any platform that has podcasts. Spotify, do it.